Hello, everyone. Hi, hello, and welcome. Dungeons and Dragons New Adventure Day. It's a whole thing. This New Adventure Day situation, because on the one hand, if it's a good adventure, it's a good day, and on the other hand, if it's a disappointing adventure, it might be a disappointing day. So I guess we'll start off neutral, and then we can decide later whether we're going to be lawful evil or chaotic good. So the plan is today to take a look at the Roll20 Marketplace version of the new 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons Adventure Collection. I think it's an adventure collection. Now, I'm hoping it's an adventure collection more in the sense that it is a bunch of connected narratives that you can play either in order or alone, rather than the admittingly fairly disappointing Tales from the, what was it called? Tales from the Yawning Portal. I didn't feel that good about Yawning Portal because I feel like the adaptations of the old adventure stuff to the new thing, they weren't. So what I'm going to be looking for Saltmarsh is a couple of things. When we get into looking at this adventure collection, I'm going to be looking at a couple of things. So one, what is its general structure, right? What are we meant to do with this thing? Right? Both, what does the game tell us that we are meant to do with it, and how are we supported by that, right? I'm also going to be looking at anything that I can use in this adventure elsewhere. So, if you watch Tomb of Annihilation, what I think was my favorite part of Tomb was bringing Hexcrawl from old D&D to current D&D. That was really cool. I like that, right? Obviously, we're going to be looking for any new backgrounds, classes, races, the kinds of stuff that just gets added to our kind of charactermancy portfolio, right? We're going to be looking for those things. I'm going to be looking at new rules, right? Are there, because there's boats in this. I mean, here, let me get out of your way. There's boats, right? What kind of boat things is this going to give us? Are there actual rules for sea combat? Is that a thing? Is that a priority? What about nautical travel? Are there more detailed underwater rules? So all of that stuff is going to be on my priority list to take a look and watch out for. And then also finally, application, right? Can I today use this adventure? And in my case, I'm looking for which of these adventures is going to fit with my current group, with their class levels, and can I just jump in and do one of these? Now, I haven't looked really at this adventure set at all. I took a brief glimpse at the various levels of each adventure because I have a couple that I'm thinking might fit for the Mad Mage group. So we'll keep an eye out for that stuff. I'm going to dig into those specifically. And also for me personally, Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh is an adventure I've played before and run before in AD&D. So I'm going to take a look at the adaptation of that in Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Now I'll read to you the sort of back text, right? What is the product that we're looking at? And then we're going to go into Roll20 and we'll look at how it's structured and kind of how it works, because there's some interesting choices that were made in implementing it into Roll20. So, the subtitle of this adventure of Ghosts of Saltmarsh is Adventure on the High Seas. Explore the waves above and the fathoms below in these watery adventures for the world's greatest role-playing game. It's a choice of branding that I've always felt funny about. I don't know if you... all right, wizards. You can have this one. Nestled on the coast of the Azure Sea is Saltmarsh, a sleepy fishing village that sits on the precipice of destruction. Smugglers guide their ships to hidden coves, willing to slit the throat of anyone fool enough to cross their path. Cruel sahuagin, I have always pronounced it sahuagin. It's spelled S-A-H-U-A-G-I-N, sahuagin. But maybe it's sahuagin? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's a made-up word. Cruel sahuagin gather beneath the waves, plotting to sweep away coastal cities. Drowned sailors stir to unnatural life, animated by dark magic and sent forth in search of revenge. cult of a forbidden god extends its reach outward from a decaying port hungry for fresh victims and willing recruits. While Saltmarsh slumbers, the evils that seek to plunder it grow stronger. Heroes must arise to keep the sea lanes safe for all. Ghosts of Saltmarsh combines some of the most popular classic adventures from the first edition of Dungeons & Dragons, including the classic U series, plus some of the best nautical adventures from the history of Dungeon Magazine. Adventures from Dungeon Magazine are hit and miss. I was always partial to the Judges Guild myself, but there are some good gems floating around in the archives of Dungeon Magazine. So this adventure, Ghosts of Saltmarsh, updates and uses the following adventures: Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh, Danger at Dunwater, Salvage Operation, Isle of the Abbey, The Final Enemy, Tamarat's Fate, and The Styes. All the adventures have been adapted from the 5th edition rules of D&D. Furthermore, this book includes details on the port town of Saltmarsh, as well as plenty of adventure hooks for each chapter. Play through the whole story in a seafaring campaign, leading the characters from level 1 to level 12, or Dungeon Masters can easily pull out sections to place in ongoing campaigns in any setting. The appendices cover mechanics for ship-to-ship combat, new magic items, monsters, and more. All right, so there's our back text version of my sort of questions from earlier. Let's take a look at how this thing works in Roll20, and I actually think this is quite cool. So in Roll20, this is the marketplace page. If you want to see it yourself or you want to check out the adventure, I have a command in chat, just exclamation Saltmarsh. It'll give you the same link so that I don't have to tell you. It's because it's a long one. It's a marketplace link. So you buy it as a bundle, which gives you the base module, the character art, and the compendium. And then you additionally get each adventure, but they're all separate modules. And then you plug those in as you play them. So you don't have to dump everything in all at once. You can just pick and choose. So like for ours, I'll show you. For our first look, I chose 2 game add-ons. So I have the base module for Ghosts, and then I also have Sinister Secret and The Final Enemy, because I think The Final Enemy is the one we're going to end up probably doing. So it's cool because you don't have to kludge up all of your account with pages that you don't need, because I tend to find that that's sort of a problem for me, where especially in long-running campaigns where I've added a bunch of module, I'm like, there's a lot of pages and a lot of digging to do, and depending on your PC, it can slow you down. So I've only added to this campaign the base module for Saltmarsh, and then Sinister Secret, which is the first adventure, and Final Enemy, which is a later adventure. So we're gonna jump in and we're gonna take a look at the account that I've set up for this first look, and just look at what is in those kind of 3 things. There's obviously a bunch more stuff in the game, but this is kind of where we're gonna start. So I'm actually just gonna make a quick change to how this displays, because I don't need to output any video stuff. And I always, first thing I do when I create a new account, I haven't opened this account yet. First thing I do is I go in and I disable the big portraits, because I definitely don't need those. So I'm going to go and fix that too. Player avatar size, we're going to go names only. There we go. Gives us lots of real estate to take a look at Ghosts of Saltmarsh. So we have our like base screen. This is in every adventure. It's like the title screen. This is my desktop. I throw tokens that I use a lot on here. So this is where I'll like leave all my PC's tokens. In Mad Mage, this is where like Macaria's zombie, skeleton, and spiritual weapon tokens go. I also use this screen for if I have a druid, I'll use it for tokens for the animals that they can take form of, any kind of summoned creatures. So this is also a great place. This is also a great place to do silly drawings. Unfortunately, we don't have any like big faces for anybody in this one. So it's harder to draw silly mustaches on everybody. But here, let's make this sahuagin. Let's make them pretty. Here, let's give them like a pretty bow that they can wear. A little pretty bow on their head. Oh, you look so lovely. A little, here we go. What a pretty, pretty princess. And then let's turn this nasty spear into a magical wand. There you go. Here we go. The salt fairy has arrived. Isn't that better? Let's give him little wings. Let's give him some little wings here. Here we go. Adorable. Much better. That's much better. Excellent. So our title screen. This is for doodling. I personally find that giving the players some space to draw on things is a fun part of the adventure. So we've got, and this will look real familiar if you've seen any of this stuff in Roll20 before, like Mad Mage and Tomb both have these. The token page, which is if you need a token for any of the monsters or NPCs in the adventure, this is the page that like lays them all out. One thing I do quite like is going through this and looking for new art for old monsters. I think that's really cool. It's neat seeing, because you get sick of seeing the same faces over and over, and I really like that if there's a picture that is new in the adventure, then sometimes we'll get a new token for those creatures, because that's always fun. So obviously we got a bunch of like sea creatures, right? Sharks, giant moray eels, baby krakens, regular krakens, this cool orca. Not to be confused with orcas, right? There's orcas and there's orcas. They're orcas. Orcas are sea creatures. Orcus is a giant, kind of a pig god of the undead, ram-headed. He's had different. Yeah. Anyway, so there's a killer whale. Yeah, if you get the wand of orcas, it will shoot whales at your enemies. That's different. That's different. So yeah, lots of sea creatures, and then we got some big tokens. We got the rock. I forgot that Dwayne Johnson was an enormous bird. That's pretty cool. And then I really like this one, the storm giant quintessent. I think she's quite cool. It's a good outfit. She's got some spells. It's like a spell casting giant. And yeah, and then this one. The two-headed giant shark Maw of Sequoia. Now, I don't know why Sequoia... I feel like a sequoia is a tree, right? Orcas? Orcus. Orcas? Orcus. Whatever. Making up names for things is hard. But this is literally a double-headed shark with a cool necklace. Yeah. So we got all kinds of cool stuff. These are all the tokens in case we need to grab them. There are a bunch of ways to get tokens from the compendium onto the screen, but this is a good way to see them at a glance. And they're all laid out in alphabetical order, so that's kind of cool. This page is very satisfying to me. There are ship tokens as well. So these have been provided for Roll20. There are token versions of the ship, and you want to see this. This is something I think is quite cool. So here's your longship, right? You can grab this token. The longship has hit points and armor class and whatever. They're multi-sided tokens made out of maps. So some of them, let's see. Yeah, some of them have, like in a longship, there's just the bottom of the boat. I don't know the name of it. Bottom of the boat and the place where you sit, and that's it. But with a big guy like a galley, check this out. We can change and we can look at the different sides. Now you're underneath in the galley. And then you go choose side, and now we're back on top of the galley, right? I don't think I've actually ever seen, I mean, it's vehicle tokens, right? It's pretty cool. So we can see the various sections. Now, I've done this with building before, with like buildings, but these multi-sided tokens that show us different layers of the ship, that's pretty cool. That's a very clever use of the maps. I really like that. So yeah, these are our tokens. We got our little Roll20 note. This is one way in which there is like a big advantage over using Roll20 over a physical book. Like, because I guess you could theoretically photocopy and then have like layered like physical tokens, but being able to right click and then just roll between them, I think is super cool. I've been getting a ton of mileage out of the multi-face tokens in Mad Mage, right? Any of the shapeshifters or anything like that. Yeah, so pretty cool. So that's all the boat stuff. And then we have a random battle map. As always, this is like a staple for drawing crappy Adam Coble drawings of things. Here's the floor. There's like a pit trap. It's got spikes in it. There's like a hinged thing, and then it looks like a sad thwomp, I guess. So this is where I can do that. It's just a textured version of a regular map, just a square 25 by 25 map. We have a sea battle map this time, which is a blue version at a much, much higher scale, right? Way bigger than 25 by 25. So that's cool for having boats. And then we have our map of Saltmarsh, which is like a real pretty map. I forget the name of this artist, but you've seen these maps before. This is 5e's like go-to cartographer. All the way back to the first box set for 5e. And I think we've seen this artist as well in this thing. So this is our map of Saltmarsh. It will come with a let's see, locations in Saltmarsh. Come with a locale, just like it. Mike Schley. That's the name of the author. Yeah, perfect. So here's the locations in Saltmarsh. This is the town. If you need a seaside town, there you go. Like Adventure's got you covered. That's quite cool. This is, I mean, Saltmarsh, from what I remember, is kind of like a Dunwich, Innsmouth, like creepy town. This is a very brightly colored map, but it's pretty nice. Though it does commit cardinal map fraud, and it puts north on the left, but it's not so bad as it would be in a dungeon. That's okay, though. That's all right. And then we have the much more old school looking Saltmarsh and environs. Like this takes me back, right? This is some old school Saltmarsh, Dwarven Mine, Seaton. Like, look at it, measures in leagues. So this is pretty cute. This very much is like AD&D environ map, and in the same way, it's got the Saltmarsh region around it, and some points that you can check out, including the fortified outpost of Burl. Yeah. So there's that. And then this map is upside down of the other map, I think. Yeah, north on this map is right, and then north on the other map is left. East is up. So this is upside down from that first map. So if you're coming to Saltmarsh from the west, you would be coming from the up on this map. So you're coming down. Anyway, whatever. It's fine. Just be aware of that. Be aware that this is where that is if you use these maps. And then we just have like detailed maps of the non-token versions of the galley, the longship, and the keelboat. Some example crews for these things. The full-size map of the sailing ship. So what I think you would likely do if I were doing like a sea battle in another game, you could go like, come over to this thing and we'll say we got, I don't know, 2 longships and they're doing a fight. So we got longship A and longship B, and they're having a fight, and maybe there's some like islands in here. And I guess I could go into the marketplace and I could get like I could go and I could find like islands, or I could find chunks of land and put it in here. Or I could just draw them in, right? So there's like a little island area here, and the boats are fighting, and then you could switch to the other map if you wanted, like if you had bigger ships, to have them go to like a boarding action. So you could be like, okay, well now they're gonna board, so let's jump over to another map, right? Jump over to this one, and then just use that. So, various levels of complexity depending on what your focus is for that sea combat. I'm really interested in seeing what that mechanical stuff looks like, right? So the base stuff in the system. So let's carry on. The base stuff in the adventure. This area, chapter 1, Saltmarsh, this is all part of it. The supplemental material, that's all part of the main stuff. Chapter 2 and chapter 6 are those add-ons that I saw. So we're going to go through the base module first, I think, and then we'll take a closer look at the Sinister Secret and the final enemy, like the actual adventure content itself. Okay. All right. So let's take a look and see. Now, these are, as with all the other stuff that we've seen in Roll20, these are presented as chapter pages. So if you want a quick Roll20 trick, you've probably seen me do it 100 times. If you have a bunch of different stuff open at once, like you have some handouts open, you have a bunch of adventures material, right? You've got a town map open, and then you've got a bunch of monsters. So let me grab some monsters here. You got like an aboleth, and you got an ape, and you got a black bear, and they're for some reason fighting all three of those at once. Double left clicking the name of the thing shrinks it down into a little tab, and then you can just find some space. The players can't see these. You can just find some space to hide them. And then as you need each thing, you can just pop it open. Do what you got to do, and then minimize it back to where it was. It's a little trick, but like because these are persistent between screens, I use it constantly, like just all the time. Because that way, instead of a physical book, having to flip back and forth, it's basically bookmarking the things that you're going to need for any given scene. You can also create your own too, right? Like I will add to my own journal or add to the player's journal, like various handouts, things like note pages. So if you watch, I guess you can't really see this, but in Court of Swords, what I'll do is I'll have character goals. They're one handout. And then I have my GM prep for that section. I have the GM prep for the overarching chapter, and I pop all those out. Players can do it too, right? If you're a player, you could have your character sheet popped out. You can also have various rules, right? So if you know you have 5 or 6 spells you cast all the time, you can have those available. If you have a condition, you can have that available. Basically anything that's in the compendium, you can pop up and have ready on the screen. And then for me, if I'm thinking enough in advance to be ready for these things, you can have a handout ready. So like player handouts, say there's the entrance to Saltmarsh. Say I've got this art handout I want to show them. I can have this ready, and I can go, all right, so you enter the city of Saltmarsh, and a guard in chain armor stops you in the path. And you can just click show to players and show it to everybody, and then they can see it. And then you can just pop it back out, right? And clicking that show to players button doesn't just show them one time, right? It isn't like a token when you Control Z, the token to pop it up. This adds it permanently to all of their journals. So you can see here in player journal, all players. So now, if the players later are like, oh, I want to get like a vibe for Saltmarsh, they can come in and in their own journal, they now have player handouts, chapter 1, entrance to Saltmarsh. So that's something that you can just click show to players, and it'll do that. Yeah. You can also show it to individual players if you go to edit. So I'll do this with magic items sometimes, where instead of saying like, let me whisper you or whatever, I'll go into edit and I'll just put the name of the player, right? And then be like, check your journal. I added something for you, and then go in and they can look. So that's an option there. Yeah, I really like it. Having those little popped up things is one of my favorite little tricks. Okay, cool. Well, so let's take a look. Let's do what Roll20 says, and we'll start with the start here, and we'll go down through the list. So there's a bunch of notes in your account. You'll see the patch notes. Sometimes there are updates to the adventure as you go. Usually by the time it hits the marketplace, it's pretty much done, but sometimes errata will get issued that we then we see rolled into the patch notes. So that'll always be up there. A little thank you note from the Roll20 team. If you ever find a bug, there's a bug report option there. Some notes on Advanced Fog of War. It functions with it, but it's turned off by default, right? So some tips about using it. You don't have to use it in every adventure. I find that with an adventure that contains a dungeon, it's a gamble, right? Because you want to use it because that's what it's for. It's for dungeons. But if you're doing like a mega dungeon like Mad Mage, check with your players. like turn on Advanced Fog of War and then be like, hey friends, try it out. See if your computer chokes and dies, because Advanced Fog of War can use up a lot of resources. It is, it's worth taking a look at that. So yeah, just some notes about Advanced Fog of War. I like it, but it doesn't always work for every adventure. I think it'd be fine for this one. And then you can see your default settings. So if you find that the adventure is doing something that you are not used to, it's probably because the default settings for this adventure are different than you normally have turned on. Like for Court of Swords, we started using different colored bars for HP and stuff, but by default, green is HP in the core modules. So it's taken some adapting for me. And then, keep an eye on that. It'll show you the nameplate toggle, whether that's on or not. And then light radius and what have you. So definitely check these and see if they match up with what you expect. Yeah, I know that Advanced Fog of War is currently undergoing some recoding. Also, whether or not you use hardware acceleration and whether you use Chrome or Firefox, I have found that as of today, the 23rd of May 2019, I have found that Firefox gives slightly better performance, but that may change. Yeah. Let's see what else we got. Battle map scale. So this shows us the scale for the various maps. Some maps are 10 foot, some maps are 5 foot, of course. So this just gives you an overview of that. And then some various shortcuts for the module. I need to get better at using the keyboard shortcuts because I think they're really useful, but I don't know. I every time I see them, I'm like, oh yeah, there are more keyboard shortcuts. Some of these I use all the time, like the modal pop-up object thing, which is this guy, right? Z brings up, just like for me, the GM shows me the pop-up version of this. And then Control Z shows everybody the big version. So if you ever want to do that, that's something you can do. And then this is another one. Control L shows the lighting environment as that token would. You've seen me do this if you ever watched any of the prep sessions where I'm setting up a dungeon and I'm looking at sight lines. So that's useful in environments where those things are turned on. So these are useful if you're not already using them. Check them out. There are more. There's a bunch more of them in Roll20 under advanced keyboard shortcuts. So you can turn them on or off here in your settings. Yeah, that's one thing I gotta look into, because I think I end up doing things the slow way, right? Like moving things around by like right clicking and moving them on the layer, but there are keyboard shortcuts for that stuff. I'm always focused on doing the GM thing, and I always forget that those exist. So let's see, what else you got for me? Rollable tokens we talked about, right? There's a whole bunch of tokens, usually shapeshifters, that you can change what side those tokens are on. We looked at that for the boats. The NPC. So this is cool. So this is a global macro. You might have seen me use this one before, and I love that this is a note in Roll20 now. And I have a feeling that if I had to guess, now this isn't like insider information or anything, but if I had to guess, I bet you this will get added to Roll20 as like a default for a lot of things soon, because I pretty much use this in every adventure. So it's an initiative macro. So if you copy this and you add it to your macros, right? You call it init, you put in the command and show it as a token action. Now, when I highlight a token, I might have already done this for this account. When I highlight a token, yeah, I did. Now there's two. When I highlight the token, instead of going shift double click, character sheet, click initiative, now I can just go init, whoop, and it'll pop up the initiative here, right? Next to my brown bear that got a 17. So another useful tool, that initiative thing. I add it to every single D&D game I've ever used, and it's really cool to see that Roll20 is like, oh yeah, that's useful. Let's just put it in the patch notes, and I bet you anything that this is going to just get added as a thing in the future. Can players use it as a global macro? Yeah, I think so, because all it does... Oh, no, you know what? Look, this is just for NPCs. Because NPC initiative is different. I bet you an enterprising macro maker could find the initiative value for a PC and just rewrite this macro. It might just be in it. If you want to dig around, look in the character sheet, look in the attributes for initiative for that roller, and try it out. Try it yourself. But I bet you could. I bet you can make a PC version for them. Let's see. Rollable tokens we talked about. And then rollable random tables. So this is anytime there is random stuff, anytime there's random stuff that can happen in one of these adventures, there's probably a table or a macro for it, as you can see. NPC loyalty tracking, ship combat, hazards at sea. And those all show up in your macros list. Let's see. Let's randomly roll islands. Give me an island. Haha, the island is wild and measures 1 mile wide and 1 mile long. For more information, see Mysterious Islands. Cool, we just made an island. Great. A tiny wild island. Let's see what a wild island. Ooh, we can do more. All right. This wild island has a feature of razor vine growing in 10-foot tall hedges shaped like animals. And if you go there, you will encounter giant toads. All right. Giant toad island with 10-foot tall razor vine hedges, and the island is 1 mile wide and 1 mile long. That's a weird island. Okay, cool. Island generator. That could be useful elsewhere. All right. So let's see what else we got. We got all that cool stuff. Random tables. We got credits and originals. We have our introduction to the adventure with this very nice Echo the Dolphin looking image there. So, okay. Talks a little bit about Ghosts of Saltmarsh, what it's about. The original backdrop of Sinister Secret, Danger at Dunwater, and Final Enemy is the port town of Saltmarsh. It's in Greyhawk, but I bet you anything it's going to tell us where we can place this in the Forgotten Realms. To help launch explorations across the wave of ships in the sea is a toolbox for ocean-bound adventures. I like that this is like boats and stuff, but it's not pirates. I don't really like pirates. I feel like they're kind of overdone. Pirates are like they're like a steak, medium well. Other people might like it, but it's a little overdone for me. So it's cool that it's a little bit more like spooky Lovecraftian kind of like coastal stuff rather than like straight up. Yeah. So that's cool. That's something I'm excited about. And then some hints for using this book. So running the adventure, just basic stuff. Yeah. If you run published adventure, the higher level ones are here. A great way to extend those campaigns. So we're going to be adding in a little journey to Saltmarsh, and we'll figure out where that's going to be. So, all right, let's take a look at what's in the basic thing. Let's learn about this town, because Saltmarsh is the core location of, I think, all of these adventures, either Saltmarsh or the areas around it. So here's Saltmarsh. We know that it has a sinister secret, a sinister sea crest. And there's a bunch of stuff to do. And if you need a coastal town, you could rebrand this probably. But let's take a look at what Saltmarsh is about. So it is a nondescript fishing village. Great place for an adventure. On the southern coast of Keoland. Keoland was a formidable military power. The Crown's neglect allowed piracy and banditry to flourish. Saltmarsh kept fishing. Decades ago, the pirates formed a loose confederacy known as the Hold of the Sea Princes. Okay, this is all background. It's all Greyhawk background stuff. So that's kind of cool. All right. We got politics and factions. Ooh, I love factions. All right, so 2 of the factions represent opposing sentiments that have grown in town. The third is a secret group that undermines Saltmarsh. Fuck yeah. All right, so there are the traditionalists, an alliance of fishing families and merchants. They would like to see the dwarves' mining efforts fail and interest in the North wane so the dependable fishing trade can thrive and smugglers are left alone. And then they have some figures from the traditionalists, like Ada. These don't. So she's a noble. All right, Ada Oland. And we got Gelland Primewater. So Gelland, also a noble. All right. And then there's the traditionalists. Oh, that's cool. Like just some sample events to kind of show off the traditionalists. Neat. Okay. And then the loyalists are newcomers who arrive from the northern reaches of Caeland, and they care about security. They want to keep Caeland's enemies at bay. They believe in the faith in the law. They want to grow Saltmarsh into a trade hub with a higher standard of living and improved security. All right. Cool. So those 2 are at odds with each other. And then the third one, the secret group, is the Scarlet Brotherhood. Its bloodline traces back to an ancient empire, the Sul Imperium, which is kind of like Greyhawk's version of Netheril, I think. The Suluese. Yeah. I only kind of remember Greyhawk very briefly. Now I'll digress for a second here. There used to be, this is my first experience with actual play, right? Actual play being like play reports, Twitch live shows, YouTube shows, podcasts, whatever, anything in which you are absorbing someone else's experience playing the game. So there was this GeoCities website called maybe the Inn of the Green Dragon or the Company of the Green Dragon or something, and they were playing first edition AD&D, and it was like 20 levels of campaigns. It was like hundreds of pages of fictionalized reports of their game, and it was set in Greyhawk, and they started at level 1, and all of the Greyhawk stuff I know from being like 12 and reading these actual play reports. I'd love to get my hands on that again. I definitely can't remember what it was called though. Still pretty damn cool. And my first experience as a kid to like other people playing D&D and seeing it and being like, oh, this is really interesting. I remember barely anything about it. Yeah. So anyway, Scarlet Brotherhood, they're a bunch of like, we can trace our bloodline to the ancient times. And then what are they? Concocting a conspiracy to spread fear, chaos, and uncertainty. And when the time is right, they'll strike to seize the reins of all the kingdoms in the land. Okay. In Saltmarsh, they support Anders Solmar and the family trade cartel, and they want to destabilize the region, weaken the crown, and clear the way for the Brotherhood to seize control. Unrepentant megalomaniacs. Fuck yeah. All right. Anders Solmar is their patsy, their sucker, I guess. Poor guy. His butler, Scarin Wave Chaser, is an agent for the Scarlet Brotherhood. Okay, good. The butler. Oh, the butler is an assassin. Fantastic. Cool. An opportunistic faction, and then you can have some like secret shit that happens. Scarin, growing bored and overconfident, assassinates a prominent member of a faction. The butler would have done it. Awesome. So it's really cool to see that's not just like, here's a town, here are 5 things that are happening in the town. It's like, here's the town, it's a hotbed of political activity already. Here's what these factions want. Your gameplay experience, depending on who the players help and who the players hinder and how they experience the town, it's way more like a dog's town than it is like a standard D&D adventure town, right? Where it's like, things are going to happen and the players show up and now the players get involved in the things that are happening. That is exciting to me. I could see some use in that. And I would love to see more campaign setting stuff go this way. Like I would love to see, this is what's happening in the world. This is what could go on. These are the power groups. The end, right? Like now your PCs wander into a town and you got to figure out what's going on. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So we don't really need to do too deep and a dive into the individual stuff in the town. It gives us like things you can get arrested for, trading and mining, like rumors and, interesting stuff. but you want to contextualize it with the reason that the characters are here. I do really like this table, though. So once every few days, it's like weather, but it's emotional weather. Let's see if I have a table here. What is it called? Mood of the town. There's so many tables. Oh, these are the tables for all of the adventures. Okay. Let's see. I don't know how these are organized yet. So, okay, there probably are, but I'm not gonna dig through every single one of these. Ooh, mutiny check. There's also like random ship names and random ship crew too, which is quite cool. Yeah. Court of Swords spin-off in the Court of Cups with this system. I mean, yeah, obviously that's something I'm gonna do as we yeah, there it is. That's something I'm gonna do as we go, right? If there's stuff to steal in this, like boat stuff. All right, so you enter Saltmarsh, and today fishers are content with their recent results. Here and there, crews boast of good pickings or bemoan their poor haul. Right, so this is neutral, right? Things are just typical today in Saltmarsh, and so you can kind of change it to give the town a different vibe, which I think it's a cool little touch. I like that. Random tables don't just have to be loot and monsters. You can create random tables, which are palettes, with to paint your scene out of just about anything, right? Visitors to a town, weather, things like mood, holidays, etc., right? You can basically randomly create tables for anything you want. And I'll say this, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Random tables are setting. A paragraph that says these are some things that are true about town is equally setting material, as is here are 10 things that could be true depending on what you roll. Because what you choose to add to that table, that's right, exactly. Even if a result isn't rolled, it tells you things about what's possible. Right? Super important. Useful stuff. Good observation. Cool. Okay. So locations in Saltmarsh. Obviously, this is what each little like thing is. Characters that live there. Places like the Wicker Goat. Oh, this is cool. I'm excited. I'm excited for my players to come here. Now, I gotta find wherever it tells me, because like the faithful quartermasters of Ayus, right? Or whatever. Like I need to find where in this adventure it tells me to readapt. Like who is our Ayus equivalent? Who is what is our Kaoland equivalent? Where is this? That kind of thing. I'm looking forward to seeing that and seeing how it fits into now I don't know if that's at the adventure level or if there's something in the appendix, but I'll get there. So there's an adapted downtime activities table. So Saltmarsh is a haven between expeditions, buying and selling magic items from Captain Zendros. Oh, cool. So town-specific adaptations of the stuff from, what, Xanathar's, I think? Adaptation for carousing. Oh, that's so cool. So this is a great example. So take the rules from, again, I think Xanathar, and write specific versions of them for the place that your characters are, because carousing is going to be different. It's going to carry the flavor of the setting, right? If I go carousing in Waterdeep, it's going to be very different from carousing in Saltmarsh, right? Again, establishing setting through mechanisms, adapting mechanisms to fit your setting. This is quite cool as an example. And I honestly, like, I think that for me, a big chunk, like a third of the value of a book like this is just being given an example of creative use of the existing mechanisms applied to a specific situation. It's one thing to say, here are the tools for making a town, and another to say, here is a finished town and how we used these specific rules to create and make it interesting. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be a finished town. It could be like Swedish or Danish if you want, I guess. Cool. Okay, so this is adaptations for the specific downtime activities. So you can work as a mercenary or whatever. Cool. Cool. And then again, the Saltmarsh region. This shows us the areas around here and what adventures might be attached to it, like Burl, or the Dwarven Mine, or the Sahuagin Fortress, which I think we will probably get to visit in our... Yeah. All right, cool. So let's see what else we got. We got adventures in Saltmarsh. Here we go. Okay, so the factions in Saltmarsh see adventures as a resource for achieving their goals. These plans can be integrated with plots of the adventures featured in Ghosts of Saltmarsh and Tales from the Yawning Portal. Interesting. Oh, that's kind of cool. All right, so this gives us the ways in which these adventures interact with Saltmarsh in general, right? So these are all from this book, Sinister Secrets, Danger of Dunwater, yada, yada, yada. But if you want to also, oh, that's cool. So it gives you a way to incorporate Yawning Portal's adventures into Saltmarsh, and this makes Saltmarsh more of a campaign setting, right? So like, if you're interested in Saltmarsh and you want to do Sinister Secret, then you want to do Forge of Fury, then you want to do something else from this book, and you want to jump back and forth, then you can, yeah, these are little hooks for those things. That's cool. I like it. Interesting. I wonder, I would love to, and this is just like, I'm just going to put on my like role-playing game designer business hat for a second, role-playing game salesperson business hat. I wonder if, I want to know how well Tales from the Yawning Portal sold. I'd love to see those numbers, because based on my experience and what I've seen kind of floating around on the internet, which whatever hearsay is relevant, but I bet you that Tales didn't sell very well compared to like Tomb or Storm Giant or Strahd. And I wonder if making an effort to hook it into Saltmarsh is because they want to sell copies of Tales to people who bought Saltmarsh. I wonder also if it means that this is like the two kinds of adventures they're going to make, right? Like Tomb, Mad Mage, Dragon Heist style, and then anthology style. Because, like, shit, there are a lot of cool old AD&D adventures that I would actually like to see. I'd actually like to see some updates. I will say this, though. One thing I like about Tales from the Yawning Portal, and I think this is still true. You know what? Let me put my money where my mouth is here. I wanna check. Because I think you can just buy. I think you can just buy them in pieces. Tales from the, yeah, you can. So some of the adventures from Yawning Portal are good. Some of them are less good. Like this one. The idea that you can buy them one at a time for $5, that is pretty cool. Because I personally don't know that Yawning Portal is a $30 buy for me, but Against the Giants for $5 or Forge of Fury for $5, like that's not bad. Yeah. So yeah, I wonder. I mean, do you have an old D&D adventure, an old AD&D adventure that you would like to see adapted? For me, and I think many people know. I know for a fact that Matt Colville agrees with me. I would love to see a fully fleshed out version of Against the Cult of the Reptile God. Hell yeah. Against the Cult of the Reptile God. I'd also really like to see Hamlet, Village of Hamlet. Hamlet rules. Like the moat house or whatever, gatehouse. That shit is awesome. Yeah. Desert of Desolation. Yeah, also a good choice. Lots of good basic adventures. Yeah. But Hamlet's like that's a real good one for me. Cult of the Reptile God and Hamlet are my go-tos when I want to play an old adventure. Yeah. So anyway, kind of neat that so this is, I'd love to see like a Ghost of Saltmarsh treatment for another collection of, yeah, Matt Colville likes Hamlet too. That's because he's got good taste in adventures. Yeah. Palace of the Silver Princess is another really good, goofy one. Palace updated to 5e would be interesting because there's a lot of gotchas in Palace. right? If you've ever played Palace of the Silver Princess, you know to stay out of the sauna. There are 2 instant kills in that sauna room alone. Isle of Dread is also hot shit, too. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So anyhow, these are ways you can adapt both these specific adventures and then other ones into the Saltmarsh campaign setting. And then updated backgrounds. Let's talk about updated backgrounds. So in theory, and this to me feels just like the downtime activities thing. In theory, the purpose of a background is to give you mechanical benefits that represent your character's pre-adventuring life. They are meant to give you a special ability that ties you to the world outside of your class, because you're not just a wizard. You're a wizard who used to be an outlander. You're a wizard who used to be a guild artisan, right? I like the idea of a background, but they're still floating in nothing. They're not like life paths. They don't tell you anything about the setting necessarily. But I think that there are ways to fix and update that. And I think whether you're running Ghosts of Saltmarsh or you're doing your own thing, update the backgrounds with hooks for the adventure that you are going to go into. So check it out. There's new backgrounds for Saltmarsh, but there's also updated backgrounds. Check it out. A character with this background might be a follower of Procon, the god of having your random abilities trigger, or a missionary of some other god sent to establish a new temple in town. Saltmarsh has never been an overly religious place, but its prospect for growth make it an ideal target. If you are an acolyte of Procon, your Shelter of the Faithful applies to the temple in Saltmarsh. Welgar Brinehanded is your friend and mentor. Bam! Immediately tied right into the setting. If you are a missionary, you live in a building charged by the elders of your faith with establishing a shrine. You own a small building in Saltmarsh. Boom, tied to the setting. Acolyte, charlatan, criminal, entertainer. They all have specific ties to the setting itself. And not just the setting generally. Not like you could be an acolyte of, I don't know, Merkel. It's, you can be an acolyte of this specific god, or... So let me take a look. Let me take a quick look. Hang on. I'm gonna pop open another account real quick. Give me one second. We're gonna do a real live test of this stuff. I'm gonna take a look. Can I be an acolyte of Kobold? Yes. I do not actually grant any spells, because if I did, I would grant them to myself. But you know, you could found a monastery in a salty town, and honor me if you wanted to. That'd be cool. I'm into it. All right. So what I'm doing right now is we're taking a little trip. Here we go. To the we're gonna take a trip to the Dungeon of the Mad Mage. So let's see. Jules' background is legendary lineage. Okay, so there's no legendary lineage connection there. Macaria, I think, is an acolyte. Oh my god, this is so funny. Okay, so I guess... Oh god. So I guess the tie-in could be that Macaria gets a note from some Merkelites in Saltmarsh who are like, so we've got this building, and we really need like an experienced cleric to come and help us set up the Temple of Merkel in Saltmarsh. Because look, Rin is a polymorphed background, and 8 is from another dimension, reformed murderbot. So like, that's cool. That's our hook. That's our hook. Macaria is invited to become the High Priestess of Merkel in Saltmarsh. Yikes. Macaria is all we've got. Rip Saltmarsh. Well, and it offers an opportunity for like retirement story for Macaria, right? Where she has this temple she can go and run. Yeah, you thought her ego is inflated right now. What is the background for Catgirl? Jules' background is her famous parents. She's like on the run for their, I think they're like famous warlocks. Yeah. Yeah. Time to take over the Scarlet Brotherhood. Wow. Right. She's the David Hasselhoff. Nobody likes her in Waterdeep, but she's big in Saltmarsh. That's pretty hot. So if you're looking to create a new adventure, if you're starting in level 1 in Saltmarsh, which I kind of wish I had time to do, then you can just have your characters pick from these backgrounds. Or if you're bringing in characters from elsewhere, you have options, right, for these various things. Yeah. Ooh, that's cool. That's very cool. All right. So that is neat. That is a killer app. I hope that every adventure comes with this. I absolutely hope that that's like a regular thing now. Yeah. And then at the back of the book, the virtual book, we have Appendix A of Ships in the Sea. So this is the other thing, right? If Tomb of Annihilation had the hex crawl mechanics, this book has the ships. So let's see how boats work. I'm reserving my judgment. In my experience, Wizards of the Coast, excuse me, I got hiccups. Wizards of the Coast does not like to add new mechanics to the game. They like adding new tables. They like adding new monsters. They like modular stuff. But they don't like adding brand new entire systems. So let's take a look and see. So ships have a stat block. The stat block is made out of basic stats, components, and action options. Okay, all right. I think this is the stuff from UA. Yeah, but like maybe expanded or actually play tested. Okay. Most ships are large, huge, or gargantuan. It's determined by length or width, whichever is longer. Is there such a thing as a boat that's wider than it is long? You've heard of Viking long ships. Now try Viking wide ships. Like barges are kind of square, though. Dummy thick boats. A catamaran. Yeah, okay, that's fair because it's like pontoons across, like a raft, I guess. Broad ships. Okay, yeah, all right. I mean, it was a legitimate question. I wasn't being sarcastic. Okay, so a ship that's 10 feet long and 20 feet wide would be a 20-foot width, meaning the ship is gargantuan. Ship doesn't have a square space unless the stat... This ship brought to you by... Unless its stat block specifies otherwise, the ship is 20 feet long, 10 feet wide. Okay, yeah. So this is so that we can mix and match boats and monsters, right? So like, yo, you're on your galley. So let's copy the galley. You're on your galley. You're out on the sea battle map. See? It's battle. And I drew dignity. And you're out in your galley, and then there's a I don't know. You're fighting a red dragon. So now we can see, okay, boom, adult red dragon. There you go. So the dragon's making flyby passes on your boat. You're shooting ballista. Oh, this could be fun. Now I want to do like a big, I don't necessarily care about sea battles against each other, but like doing, yeah, and then you fire the ballista once and the dragon's dead. Yeah. Or you miss for 20 minutes for some reason because, I don't know, I guess turn your boat invisible. That'll work. Yeah, okay, cool. I wonder, so we could generate like a crew, right? There's like a crew generation. I got to figure out what these SAS, like RE, OE, like what those mean. I guess some of these are adventures. Because I need to generate like a crew for the ship. And then you can, yeah, drag them on there. And yeah, there's like a crew generation table you can roll on. Yeah. Crashing a ship, full speed ahead, crew loyalty, calculator, loyalty converter. Yeah. Cool. So that'd be how you'd have your, yeah. It's the ship of Captain Zendros. Yeah, there you go. And so you have yourself on the ship, and then be like, we run underneath and we hide under the ship. And then, okay, we run back upstairs. And then we go back up on top. That is so cool. Okay, I'm way more interested in like boat fights now than I was before. Maybe in Court of Swords. Maybe we got to go to the Court of Cups and we got to do some boat stuff. Let's see how boats work, though. Let's continue reading about ships in the sea. Okay, so they have a capacity for carrying stuff. They have a travel pace. They have ability scores. Okay, so ships are characters. Okay, all right. Yeah, you can tint the boats too. If you don't like the black and white boat, real easy way to mess with that is to go tint color. Be like, boom. 'Tis a brown boat now. Ship's constitution is its durability. Dexterity is the ease of handling. Strength is size and weight. And then usually have a 0 intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. However, if you want to Millennium Falcon this shit, you could have a boat possessed by a ghost and then use the ghost's intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Yeah, fun. Fun. You could also make like a magic boat. Yeah, King of Red Lines. You can make a magic boat with its own intelligence score. Yeah. That's rad. That's fun. And then ship's vulnerabilities, resistance, and immunity apply to all components unless otherwise noted. Typically immune to poison and psychic damage, immune to blind, charmed, deafened, exhaustion, frightened, incapacitated, paralyzed, petrified, poison prone, stunned, and unconscious. Yeah, spelljammers, right? Totally, yeah. Ghost ships. That's how you turn a ship into a monster. Just give it those stats. And then some special abilities from ghosts. Yeah. And then a ship has, as part of its stat block, things that it can do. I think we have a ship character sheet right here. Yeah, we do. So here's the galley for the boat itself. Oh, fun. Yeah, you can restrain a ship. Yeah. Oh my god, a huge mimic pretending to be a ship. So like the crew is fake and the ship is fake, and when the players board the ship, it just eats them. Oh, that's pretty good. Like it would have the ship, and then the crew have their feet growing out of the deck of the ship. So the ship is basically just like, I'm a boat. Look at my little crew members. Yar, yar, yar. And then they jump on board. Haha, we're gonna, oh God. And then the ship just like turns into a giant mouth and tries to kill them. Oh my God, that's so funny. Amazing. All right. So part of the stat block, the ship has actions. Using its special actions rather than the actions used by creatures. It relies on its actions to move and doesn't have a move otherwise. Right, ships don't move on their own. The captain decides which action to use. Given actions can be chosen only once per turn. Now, does the ship itself gets an initiative? On its turn, the galley can take 3 actions. If it has fewer than 40 crew, only 1 action if it has fewer than 20. Oh, so it requires crew. So if you like cloud kill a boat, the galley can't take its actions if the crew are dead. So the assumption is that the crew, does nothing on their own turn? We're going to need to figure that out. Like in ship combat, do the crew do things, or are they part of the ship? Like it's hit points or whatever. But not if this galley's a mimic. Okay. All right. So you can, as part of its action, you can move the boat, you can fire the mangonels, or you can fire the ballistas. You can fire the baristas, because your coffee shop's not doing very well. Okay. Ship is made out of components: hull, control, movement, weapon, armor class, hit points, damage threshold, siege weapons. Now, can you target? I mean, it looks like each thing has its own AC and HP. So it looks like you can target those things. So that's kind of cool. So I guess if you let's say you're a wizard, Harry, or you're a red dragon, and the red dragon makes a pass on the boat and doesn't make a pass at the boat and uses its breath weapon to target the ballistas, right? So it could do that. I guess that means the ballistas. So how do you determine whether it's attacking the base ship or if you're attacking the weapons of the ship, right? Ballistas, AC 50, 50, 50, 50. So what, each 50 damage kills a ballista? I guess we'll find out. Yeah, base HP is hull HP. Called shots are a thing. Okay, well, I mean, I guess we'll find out. We'll keep looking at the rules. Okay. So this is how the ships are set up. So how do they fight? Let's find out. Okay, of ships in the sea, that's great. Let's minimize that. Let's take a look at ships in combat. There you go. Okay, so ships in combat roll its own initiative using the crew's quality score as a modifier to that roll. On a ship's turn, the captain decides what action to use. A special officer action. During an encounter, the captain, first mate, and bosun have 2 special actions. They can direct the crew's firing. They can full speed ahead, so exhort the crew to row faster, multiply the result by 5, and that's a bonus to the ship's speed till the end of the next turn. Okay. All right. So managing a ship's entire crew could be cumbersome. Typically, the crew's too busy managing the ship to do anything else during combat. Don't worry about tracking their individual positions unless you want to add that. Assume the crew is evenly divided among the upper 2 decks of a ship. Slaying a crew reduces the number of actions they can take, making the crew a tempting target. Resolve individual attacks as normal, using the guideline for resolving many identical attacks at once as needed. Oh, handling mobs. Okay. Instead of rolling an attack roll, determine the minimum d20 roll you need to hit a target by mob attacks. Interesting. Where is this coming from? Like what rule book is this in? Is this in this book? It's the Dungeon Master's Guide. Yeah, but like it must have been ported over. It must have been ported over to this because the DM guide isn't in Roll20 yet, right? It's like one of the few books that hasn't been ported in. Right, the handout is in Mad Mage as well. Okay. Interesting stuff. Instead of rolling an attack roll, you determine the minimum d20 roll you need in order to hit a target by subtracting its attack bonus from the AC. Oh, complicated. It's like Thaco. 8 orcs surround a fighter. The attack bonus is 5. They need a 14 or higher to hit the fighter. For every 3 orcs attack, 1 hits. If there are enough orcs for 2 groups or 3, the remaining orcs fail to hit. If the attacking creatures deal different amounts of damage, assume that one that deals the most damage is the one that hits. It ignores crits in the favor of reducing the number of die rolls. Fascinating. Complicated. I'm going to put a pin in this one. But this is for multiple groups attacking one thing. Yeah. Certainly an option. In the case of spells that cover an area, track the exact location, alternately roll 1d6 per level of the spell. Oh, so if you're like, I throw a fireball, and you're like, all right, the fireball hits 9 crew members. 9 crew members. Yeah. Okay, interesting. Complicated, but it could definitely, yeah. I wonder if this is like a half step between, like this is an extrapolation they would use for mass combat. I'm really interested to see how Matt does it for the follow-up to Strongholds. But I wonder if we're going to get, because I don't think Descent into Avernus is about like the blood war fought on the ground, but I'm very curious to see what happens and how we extrapolate this out to like unit combat. Yeah. I wonder if they're going to consult Matt on that. No, I don't think so. Wizards has a tendency to be like, this is our stuff. This is the DM's guild. unless you want to write a book for us or write a DM's Guild book, they're usually like, you can do it your own way using the document, right? The SRD or whatever. Interesting. Okay, cool. So, crashing a ship. If a ship moves into the space occupied by a creature object, the ship might crash. It avoids crashing if it's at least 2 sizes smaller. When it crashes, make a DC 10 con save. On a failed save, damage to the hull based on the size. Okay, well, so this is just crashing, but how do we target... How do... This doesn't answer my, like, how ships take damage question. Like, this is firing at things that are not on the ship, but like, how do we work out the like damage stuff, right? Because the ship has 500 hull damage. You need to deal at least 20 damage to hurt the hull. It has up to 80 crew and 40 passengers. I guess you specifically choose what you're targeting. Right, it's an individual thing. So I guess, again, in that case, you make the ship's saving throw. Let's go back to that example, right? So if the dragon, Jesus, that makes AoE really powerful. Because if this dragon, what's the dragon's like cone of fire? Breath weapon that is 60 feet cone. Holy shit. All right. So it's a 60-foot cone that hits everybody that's on the front half of the ship. It also would hit then... So the ship itself, the crew of the ship... Where's my ship character sheet? The ship itself, the crew of the ship, the ship's front stuff. The helm is up here so it wouldn't get hit. But all of these ballista... Let me roll damage for that red dragon breath weapon. 63. Sorry, I did it twice. 18 d6. And then you got to make saving throws. 76 damage. Okay, so we got to make a bunch of saving throws, right? So like the ship needs to make a save, and it's a DC 21 dex save. Oh fuck. All right. So the ship fails the save, which means that the ship takes 76 damage itself, right? And then all 4 of the ballistas are toast. Except that I'm drawing on the map and not on the token. Okay, so all of the ballistas are toast. They immediately burn up. And then, what did they say? Like, 1d6 for each level of the spell? So I don't know how you would do that for fire breath. Like how many crew members get burnt to death? An 18d6 like fireball. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, you're right. Each ballista would get a saving throw. A d6 per challenge rating. That seems like a lot. Like maybe half the CR or something. Because if it was 1 per challenge rating, check this out. So let's say there's 80 crew. It would be like 17d6. That's 58. That's like most of the crew. I think half that makes sense. So like 9, right? Or 8, I guess in that case. 8 and 8, 16. Yeah. So in this case, it'd be 30 crew members roasted. And then, yeah, you'd make 4 saves for the ballistas. 1 for each one. I mean, obviously, this is a very complex ship. But, like, yeah, you're going to lose, like, half your ballistas in one go, right? So the dragon positions itself. It roasts your ballistae. I feel like it hits, like, half the oars, too. Oh, yeah, and the sails. Sails are too far back to get hit by that. And then, yeah, those ballistas up top. Yeah, and if you're below, you got cover, so you don't get hit. I feel like that makes sense. Like, I think that's probably a pretty big hit. Like, a adult red dragon could probably roast a boat. Yeah. And then, like, let's see if any of these things survive. So they have 50. Each ballista has 50 hit points. dex save doesn't really make sense because it can't move, but whatever. So 1, 2, 3. Oh my god, so many. Okay, all the ballistas are toasted. Because they can't move. So yeah, all right. So in this case, the front half of the boat, I guess we're seeing it in action. The front half of the boat gets just roasted by this dragon. The boat's still operative, but you're running out of like crew members and people to like things you can use to fight that dragon. The dragon makes its pass. I guess rolling initiative against the dragon is important if that's what you're gonna do. Kind of maybe feels about right. I'd have to see it in action a bunch more times, but definitely AoE against boats. Like if I were a wizard, you want to fireball the sails, right? You want to fireball the crew. Let's look at boat upgrades. If we wanted to fight that dragon, you can get hull upgrades. Oh, frost-locked hull. Death vessel. What? This stuff is fucking cool. I want a death vessel. Anyone who attempts to board the boat is like, yeah, there's a pulse of horrific energy. Reinforced hull, living vessel. Immune to cold damage, but vulnerable to fire. Why by default is there not like a fireproof boat? I feel like you can just flip that. Like frost-locked hull, replace it with like a burning hull or whatever, right? For the elemental plane, you can just flip it because it just makes it immune to cold, vulnerable to fire, and then flip it around. Yeah. Brimstone boat. Yeah, I like it. Cool. Yeah. Vigilant watch, reinforced hull. Neat. Okay. And then you can get clockwork oars, everfull sails, defiant sails, dragon sails, screaming sails, scything oars, concussive rounds. Yeah, you can get some cool... Oh, a red dragon figurehead that shoots fire. Bones of endless toil. Smugglers banner, taskmaster's drums. It's pretty cool. I like it. Yeah. Each upgrade costs 15,000 gold and takes a D4 weeks of work. Thank you. Thank you for giving us a concrete cost. You could also make these quests, right? Like, you need to go and retrieve a special material or whatever if you wanted to do that, and then you could reduce the cost potentially or something, or make it necessary if you wanted to focus them. Yeah. So the players take downtime. They pay somebody 15,000 gold to fix the ship. This is how you give your players a boat. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I like it. I like it. No, so the plan for Mad Mage, just because somebody's asking, this isn't the first time I've seen this asked in chat. The plan for Mad Mage is we're going to take a break from Mad Mage. We're going to go and do a Saltmarsh adventure. We'll see how long it takes. And then we'll either come back to Mad Mage until September for Descent, or we might go straight from Saltmarsh right in. So we'll talk about that. We're going to do Final Enemy, I think. Okay, cool. So we get information about traveling at sea, things like travel pace, activities while you're traveling. It's basically like boat downtime. So that's kind of cool. Things you might encounter. Like a blue hole, which I guess is like a black hole, but for water. Coral reefs, currents, and travel. Yeah, neat. Okay. Pressure and temperature if you go underwater with magic. That's kind of neat. Okay. Now, we didn't really look at the officers and crew, but this is how you like hire people to run your boat. I guess in addition, you can be like a crew member, right? Ship needs a single person to issue orders and respond to threats. Otherwise, there's chaos. Yeah, so like a person could be the captain of the ship. And then you could hire a first mate, or another character could be that way. Yeah. Officers and crew can be, yeah, supposed to be player characters. But obviously you could hire them. And then there's loyalty and quality for your character, for your group. And if the crew's quality score is lower than 0, the captain has to make a charisma check, or there might be mutiny. And then shore leave improves their time in port. Yeah, so managing a ship. Fun. That's fun. I like that. Okay, cool. And then we talked a little bit about mysterious islands. We've got some maps for underwater locations. So we've got maps for a cove reef. These are underwater maps, right? Cove reef. We've got a location map for the wreck of the Marshall. And then we've got a map. These are like little mini things for the What is this place called? Worthal Keel. Warthall Keel. So yeah. It looks like it's full of octopi. Neat. A little like sunken temple kind of thing. Yeah, cool. Some fun little maps. All right. So I was going to take a look through both Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh and the final enemy, but I just don't think I'm going to have time. I want to focus on the stuff that may actually see play. So my plan, because of the adventures like leveling and stuff, my plan is to take my characters from Mad Mage and have them join in the adventure The Final Enemy. So the final enemy is an adventure that builds on the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh and Danger at Dunwater. These are adventures that lead up to it. This one is designed for 4 to 6 characters of 7th level. The characters will be 6th level, I think. I think I'll bump them up to 6th when they go and do this. And it's based on the conclusion of the Saltmarsh trilogy. So we are going to skip Sinister Secret and Danger at Dunwater. But if you're interested in those and you want to see the prequels to what we're going to be doing, that's a thing you can do. And it'll be a test of how well this adventure handles jumping right in at this level. Now, I considered doing the Abbey one, but I think it's kind of weird for what I wanted to do. This specific adventure, I think it'll be fine. It'll get us in. We'll just jump in and just do the sort of climactic event and try that out. And you never know. Like if we ever want a one shot, maybe we'll come back and do the first one. We'll introduce Saltmarsh and see what it was like before Macaria and 8 and Jewel and Rin showed up. So the premise of this adventure is some adventurers have investigated and done some stuff. Some other adventurers have discovered the alleged haunting of a house. There are smugglers. They learned that there is a nearby colony of lizard folk. We've built up all this stuff in the background, and the town council has now basically summoned these heroes to infiltrate the Sahuagin stronghold and return with knowledge to bring down the downfall of the final enemy. Yeah, we're not going to do U1 because that would mean making new characters. And Dissonance, no, we won't finish Mad Mage. There's no time in a human lifespan for us to finish Mad Mage. Right? Like, and we've said that since the beginning. Mad Mage was never meant to be do all 30 levels. Or 23 levels. It's so big. Yeah. So anyway, we're going to take on the final enemy. I think that'll be the adventure. The town council calls the adventurers to town, and there is a council attended by lizard folk, merfolk, and how do you pronounce this? Lokatha? Lokatha? The other kind of fish people. Oh, they're so cute. Look at them. This is flappy feet. It sounds like you have something caught in your throat. Is there a pronunciation guide in this? There isn't, is there? I didn't see one. Damn it. Nope. No pronunciation guide in this one. All right. That's fine. So let's get started. We got our maps over here. Yeah, let's just stay here for now. Yeah. Okay. So there's a council that the characters are brought to. And at the meeting, the council explains a combined force from all the assembled species is being put together to strike against this fortress. Before the attack can be planned, a group is needed to make an excursion into the fortress. Okay, cool. So it's a reconnaissance mission to allow the allies to plan a proper attack. The full assault is launched 14 days after you return, assuming you succeed. Okay, they produce a crude map that identifies the location of the stronghold. An island in the estuary of the Javan River, 50 miles southwest of Saltmarsh. Is that? Is that on our environs map? So there's Saltmarsh. Abbey Island. Oh, maybe it's not on this map. Maybe it's further out. Okay. Because, like, yeah, okay. All right. So the council is basically like the briefing, right? They know this because the site is their former lair, taken over by the sahuagin, a series of natural passages and caves honeycombing the interior of the island. Oh, okay. Oh, it's all the way up here. Okay, cool. Beep. Excellent. Good to know. Okay. The lair is a 3-level cave system inside a rocky island. Remarkably, the island seems to have sunk into the sea, leaving the only top 1/3 visible from above the water. The main entrance is a cave that faces the coast. The sahuagin have made changes to the lair beyond submerging the 2 levels. All the alterations are made described in the sahuagin stronghold. Right, so they have to go. The goal of this adventure is to determine the strength of the force, locate important areas within the fortress, discover significant defensive measures, and discover how advanced the they attack. Do they also protect? I guess we'll find out. So they're considered an elite team. Oh, good. They will likely need to fight some of the sahuagin, but must remain quiet as often as possible to avoid becoming overwhelmed. Nice. Think tactically, avoid unnecessary fights, reward them for passing through the areas undetected. Or I guess 8 could just try to slaughter them at all. Just get in there and hack them all up. Cool. All right, if they want to travel by sea, they got a modified keel boat. 2 members of the town guard pilot the boat, but do not disembark. Upon arriving, they must decide where to disembark and how to approach the fortress itself. If the lizard are present, they recommend a daylight landing at the river's mouth. At any event, the keelboat will not come ashore or drop anchor anywhere near the island. They're expected to use rowboats to get to shore. At a predetermined signal, the keelboat will return to see if the characters are ready to be collected. Okay, they just come back and they're like, there's no invasion. We've killed everyone. All right, so where's our map of, like, the entrance to... Here's level 1 of the lair. Oh, it's only just got the 1 entrance, full of sahuaginoids. Coral smashers, champs, and regular sahuagin. Okay, so it's like a sunken island. Oh, it's Sekola, not Sequoia. Okay. The cave entrance and the lowest level has been submerged 80 feet in water. It's not a typical sahuagin settlement. It's an experimental fortified base. They've renovated it to conform to their plans. They're working on the top level. If they enter through Area 1, they deal with the guards. They find the upper level empty and bare. Construction is going on in level 19. The other areas are underwater. They must use magical means to navigate these areas. Oh, that's a bit annoying. So they're like submerged. Level 2 and 3 are underwater. So I guess I should give them something to let them like breathe underwater. That's interesting. Okay, let's look at map level 2. Okay, so the corridors are 10 feet wide and 10 feet high, yada, yada, yada. Doors are 4-inch thick, dressed stone. No permanent light sources exist, as the sahuagin don't need them. Furniture and seaweed beds, malevolent dwellers of the deep, yada, yada, yada. Patrols in the fortress. Okay, they routinely send patrols out at level 2. 1 coral smasher, a champion, and 5 sahuagin. All right. So let me look at levels. Mission begins and level 2. So the mission begins. You arrive at the island. It's bare. It's got 3 entrances. This area is a above the sea. Enter the doors closely. And okay, sure. So this is just like standard dungeon stuff. But level 2, entirely submerged in cold water. 1 casting of water breathing lasts 24 hours. Okay. I think that's probably the best bet. Yeah. Let's do that. We'll just give them, I'll just give them water breathing. Yeah. Like either Macaria can cast it, or like there can be a priest or whatever that casts it on them as a blessing or whatever. Okay. And 8 will be fine. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So then, but they're underwater, which means I'd have to look at the like fighting underwater rules, because there's no like free action. What is it? Is that, have they like thrown it in the appendix here? Remind me how fighting underwater works. Underwater combat. There it is. Ranged weapon automatically misses a target beyond the normal range. Even within normal range, it has disadvantage. Melee attacks have disadvantage unless the weapon is a dagger, javelin, short sword, spear, or trident. Yeah, it sucks fighting underwater. Good. Okay. You just have to use different weapons. Yeah. All right. Cool. Nice challenge. I like it. I mean, it sucks, but like the game is very heavily skewed towards the PCs doing good. So, and then without a swimming speed, they move slowly through the water, right? Yeah, Jewel will be fine. 8 fights with a magic javelin anyway. And Macaria and Rin cast spells. So I think for the most part, they'll be okay. And then movement underwater. Is that covered in this one? Swimming, here we go. You can't swim for 8 full hours a day, but that's not really what they're doing. And then there's underwater visibility. Okay, cool. It's too bad. It's too bad we don't have Arcturus in the party. Yeah. And creatures that are fully submerged have resistance to fire damage. That's a good point, too. Cool. Okay. All right. So other than that, it's like a kind of stealth dungeon thing. It's the water dungeon, right? They get big metal boots, and then they walk around, and they got to switch the boots on and off. Okay. So, yeah, they can go and they can check it out. They're not here to, like, kill everyone, but they're here to figure out and make notes of, like, what's in the dungeon and what to expect in terms of, like, forces. All right. Okay, so they go through the first level, they go through the second level, they go to the third level, and I guess they basically get to decide when they're done, so... Nah, lightning in water is just regular. It's just regular lightning, like it's magic, so. Wow, look at all these fucking guys. All right, don't get in a fight in this room. Just don't. Just don't attract any of these things. Cool. And then there's some escape routes down below. Which means I guess they could go and try to sneak in through the lower area. If they wanted to. Yeah, nice. Nice. Okay, cool. Let me take one last look at the adventure here. So sahuagin conclusion. Here we go. So... if the adventurers achieve their objectives and return to Saltmarsh, they receive a hero's welcome. They're granted citizenship, and a house is set aside for them to use rent-free whenever they wish. If you want to continue the story, proceed with the assault. So they take a role in the upcoming invasion. They begin with an attack by the militia on the entrance. Interesting. Okay, so this could turn into a larger thing if we have time and the players are interested. So they can either go back to Waterdeep, having helped out in Saltmarsh, or they can stay and they can fight in the assault, and we can have a big sea battle. I hope they stick around. We'll see how much time we have. So I think what we'll do for the hook for this one is we will we'll have Macaria receive a letter that says, we're trying to start this new church. We're beleaguered. We really want to like spread the word of Merkel in this town of Saltmarsh, and we need your help, Makaria. We've heard that you and your friends are brave adventurers. Come to Saltmarsh, and we have to help the town survive. And then when we do, then we can build this cool church, and they're going to love us, and everyone here will worship the death god Merkel, right? Yeah, it's a PR move. Okay, cool. Yeah. Time to invest in Saltmarsh. Yeah, that sounds good. That'll be our hook. Weird Makaria's church. It'll also give 8 an opportunity to participate in some war stuff again. And for Rin and Jewel to learn things and steal stuff equivalently. Now, there's a whole bunch of other adventures in here, right? Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh, and then all of the other leveled up adventures. It's meant to, if you're doing a campaign set in Saltmarsh, it's meant to run you from level 1 to 12. I'm gonna definitely steal the boat stuff. I kind of want to do some like mock boat combat sometime. Maybe I'll recruit like a couple of people like Dave and Elf and Blue Jay or something. Like maybe I'll grab my group sometime. We're all like not doing anything, and we'll do a little like mock boat combat if they decide not to do the fight thing. But you could steal that boat stuff from this, as well as the stats for the boats and all the new ocean monsters for your own campaign pretty easily, I think. Yeah, I don't think it would be too difficult. I'm not super interested in pirates, but I do like the idea of weird semi-haunted seaside towns. So I think that's a great way to go. Yeah, I quite like it. Yeah, we could always do that too, Edwin. That's a good point. We could always just have them get attacked by pirates or whatever on the way, or by monsters or something in a boat on their way. I'll think about it. Yeah, that might be worth checking out. It's fun to start an adventure with a bang rather than like you show up at the town council meeting and everybody blah blah blahs at each other. Yeah. Yeah, if you like Shadows over Innsmouth or whatever, then yeah, there's some good opportunities for seaside spookiness in this particular campaign setting. So yeah, definitely worth looking at. So yeah, I will tell you this: if you're interested in seeing this stuff in action, you shouldn't have to wait very long. As of right now, the plan is, and I guess this is maybe the first time I'm talking about this, on Monday, May 27th, instead of doing a single 3-hour episode of Dungeon of the Mad Mage, we're going to do a double episode. We're going to do 6 hours of Saltmarsh. So I think what we're going to do is just jump right in and say, put a pin in the Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Let's go to Saltmarsh. I think we're just going to do that right away. And it's going to be a double long episode. We're going to do 6 full hours of saltiness. We're going to start early. So I haven't put it in my calendar yet, but we're going to start at 10 a.m. Pacific. And we're going to go right through to 4 p.m. Pacific, and we will explore 6 hours of Saltmarsh. So we should get a chance to look at the town. We should get a chance to do a little bit of fighting and start our investigation of the fortress of the Sahuagin. And so that's going to be Monday, May 27th. We will announce that more fully as we go, but I hope I will get to see you there. If you don't get to tune in, if you miss it, obviously it will be live on our YouTube channel in the usual way the next day. So there'll be six new episodes for you to check out starting on Tuesday at noon if you miss it live. So yeah. Cool. All right. So that's my first look, my scrape the surface of Ghosts of Saltmarsh. I hope you have found it educational and entertaining. And that if you are on the fence about Saltmarsh, I hope that it has helped you decide whether or not you want to purchase it. This stream for me was useful to actually get to see what it looks like. And if you want to look at it for yourself, you can check it out. Just use the Saltmarsh command in chat. If you're watching this on Twitch, if you're watching this on YouTube, just go to the Roll20 marketplace, search for Ghosts of Saltmarsh, and have a look. And maybe it's your next 5e campaign. Maybe not. Maybe you'll just find some cool stuff, like I will, and steal it for your ongoing game. The next time we do one of these for a Dungeons and Dragons thing will likely be a stream doing a first look at Baldur's Gate, the Descent to Avernus. As soon as I get my hands on it, I'm hoping I get a chance to do like a preview stream, but we haven't ironed any of that stuff out. It's not happening till September, so likely it'll be after Gen Con. We'll take a first look at that and do maybe some GM prep if there's going to be a show that leads right into it. So keep an eye on the channel for that, and we'll see you again next time for more first look RPG content. Thanks for coming, everybody. We will see you later.